If you're going to wrap things up with a bang, then you might as well go big. Pitting two of the toughest cars to drive against the longest, most punishing track on the iRacing service is certainly one way to do that. But then the drivers in this series always were up for a challenge. Let's see who can step up to it as we get ready to watch round 12 of the iRacing Kamel GT series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. The Nürburgring Nordschleife saw itself begin to be phased out of top-level competition around the time these cars competed. For a look at what it entails, let's head to our track guide. Welcome to the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Most modern high-end series might use the GP circuit nowadays, but it will certainly never hold the respect and awe that the Northern Loop commands. Though it can be and is usually used in conjunction with the Grand Prix circuit for competitions in real life, here on iRacing, drivers can harken back to a time gone by and just run the 13-mile behemoth this place is known for. Nicknamed the Green Hell by three-time F1 world champion Sir Jackie Stewart, it is often regarded as the greatest test of a driver anywhere on the planet. Just looking at the stats will tell you why. More than 150 turns and close to 1,000 feet in elevation will pass you by in a single lap. Simply memorizing the course is half the battle for most drivers, let alone being fast. It goes without saying that this place is dangerous. Many fast corners lack runoff. There's blind apexes everywhere, and in a couple cases, even modern cars will get airborne. The list of famous turns is pretty lengthy, but some of the more notorious are places such as Flugplatz, Miss Hit Miss, Bravery Corner, and of course, the ever-iconic Carousel. It's not just the places where you've got to move the wheel that get attention too. The Dottinger Hoa stretches for more than 1.5 miles in length. While you would think this circuit would mainly be limited to the track days most gearheads flock to for a chance to lap the ring, it still sees quite a bit of wheel-to-wheel combat. The 24 Hours of the Nürburgring, the VLN Series, and the World Touring Car Championship all still take the track to this day. Many race fans consider this the mecca of road racing, and any driver who is able to push the limits here often quickly garners their respect. Well, Adam, I think it's safe to say this is a much anticipated round for both drivers and fans.
Yeah, it definitely is, Joe. The Nürburgring Nordschleife is the most daunting circuit on iRacing, spanning almost 13 miles or 21 kilometers and featuring a whopping 154 turns. This track is so long, we expect the Nissans to only complete a paltry 7 laps of it in their 40 minutes of allotted playtime. There are far too many turns to detail before the race begins where each car struggles, but the Nissans, while going the fastest here, will struggle the most due to the painfully high curbs and uneven track surface that seeks to upset the careful balance of the turbo-powered torque and old 90s era tire grip. The Audis, on the other hand, will feel more at home on this effectively street circuit, as so long as the gearbox cooperates. Multi-class wise, well, this circuit is only 2 lanes wide at the most places, and with grass an inch away from the track and constant turns all over, getting pushed wide will likely end your race. While we likely won't see much close racing today, Joe, survival is the name of the game, and with the last steps on the podium on both class championships to play for, the drivers will be right to keep in mind the old adage, to finish first you must finish.
No doubt about that. Now, let's also take a glance at that championship, starting with the prototypes. Gerber has wrapped it up, but look at this. Nick Schneider and Cy Andra very tight together, along with Jamie Hall having a shout at maybe getting onto the podium, as Adam mentioned. Nick Mukanos could maybe do something here to get into 4th, but any higher than that, and he is mathematically eliminated. We also have the GTO standings. Why don't you run us down that, Adam?
Absolutely, Joe. Yuko Leskola has absolutely secured that top spot, especially with Yoni Kaisen not showing up last week. But with Yoni Kaisen not showing up last week means Reed Miller is within striking distance of second position. And if Yoni Kaisen doesn't show up again today, that means he has a definite opportunity to get that position away from him. Ben Laughter's only 4 points behind Reed, and Miguel Castro only 14 points behind Ben Laughter. And while Miguel's going to have a hard time pushing forward, Escaleta Niemi is tied with him. So look for those two to fight it out for that last top 5 spot on the GTO standings, Joe.
So it's all to play for, and it's so easy to throw it away here. Let's look at what exactly they'll be playing on as we take a look at the race details. This is the finale for the season, and it is expected to be 7 laps, even though it is timed. It's a typical 40-minute race here. However, they have an open setup in this series, and this one might be critical for drivers to really dial it in so that they're comfortable, not necessarily fast. They have some incident limits. Lord help them if they somehow manage to get 17 and get that drive-through, let alone 25. I don't know how anybody would manage that without a car being completely just a pile of junk by those 17 incidents. We're waiting for the warm-up to finish. Qualifying actually happened ahead of time because the laps are so long around here. At this point, drivers not likely to honestly get a full lap in for us even to get an idea of who sits where in terms of pace. So this one will mainly be down to previous experience and who's been doing good in the warm-up on the week leading up, in fact.
Yeah, definitely, Joe. I mean, practicing around here is absolutely the most critical part of getting your race done. I mean, like I said, survival is absolutely the name of the game around here. And especially for these Nissans, those high curbs are going to knock them offline multiple times during the race. So practicing, just getting your lines correct around here is going to be really important. But the hard part these drivers are going to have to face, Joe, is that they haven't done a lot of multi-class practice around here. And some of them are getting that best practice right now as we're getting in this warm-up period for the last 20 seconds.
Riding on board with Leskola there for a brief moment. You can see that multi-class is some of them getting a little bit of practice overtaking some of the Audis in the warm-up. They don't expect to pass them much, except for a few stragglers as time goes by. But the clock ticks down, and we are getting ready to go to our grid here in just a moment. Even though the championships have been wrapped up, this is going to give us a lot of fun here in the finale. Your starting order for today is going to be Alex Gall on the pole, and Fabian Gerber will be starting in second. Severi Seppa, P3 for him, with Yoni Kaisen starting in fourth. And it's Nick Schneider in fifth, followed by Michael de Turk in the sixth spot. Nick Mukano still start P7. Sean Campbell with a good qualifying in eighth, and Timo Karjalainen in ninth. Laust Olsen rounds out the top 10. On the next page, it's Fabian Jungbluth starting 11th and Jacob Leon in 12th. Martin Krejcik puts it in P13 and Heitor Sintes Vindo in 14th. Phil Lake, P15, and Patrick Kieran in 16th. Then you've got Hideki Koivisto on the inside of the next row and Craig Schultz in 18th. Next row starts with Jacob Maciejewski in 19th and John Keefe in 20th. Last few will be Carlos Fonseca in 21st, Paul Fair 22nd, Don Peak starting 23rd, and Renato Murviato in 24th. Thomas Pascal Lauenstein in 25th, followed by Justin Craig, Jonathan Rickard, William Ross, Kyle Graham, and Roy Pruitt, rounding out your 30 drivers in the prototypes.
Yuko Leskola is going to start off on pole next to Willy Rolla, who's jumping back into the Audi today, with Christian Streitenberger starting off in third. Niels Kor is going to start off fourth for these Audis. Reed Miller is going to have a good day today because Yoni Kaisen is not in the field. He's starting off in fifth, with Ove Trengrade sixth. Matthias Bottas is going to start off seventh, Ben Laughter eighth. Mark Olay and Jim McGill round out your top 10, with Jamie Hamill-Smith, Brian Shanahan, Mika Tupola, Robin Happich, and Oren Laskin rounding out your top 15. Then we have Rob Olenek, Moritz Peckel, William Darling, and Keith Waltz rounding out your 49 car field here today.
It is a lot of cars, but I mean, if there ever was a track where they'll have space to spread out, at least in terms of the length of the track, this would be it. However, this will mean that there's ever more danger of running into someone else's problem, especially on this first lap. Coming through the last little chicane here, and Gall is going to have control of the field. Porsche pace car is in. Teammate to Syondra trying to hold his flag today, and the green flag flies for Alex Gall, who is off down into the north curve, and already single file between himself and the first three. A little bit of side-by-side for those behind him. Otherwise, this looks pretty calm. Oh, we got one spinner. That was Patrick Gearing, who collects it. Thankfully, no incident. Let's go to the GTOs.
Great jump for Yuka Leskola ahead of Billy Rolla, who ends up going back a little bit farther. Christian Steinberger able to hang on to the third position with Nils Core in fourth, Reed Miller in fifth, opening train grade 6 right now. They're all single file as they rip through that first turn that hots it back on the circuit.
All right, good to see things relatively calm here at the start. I do see a couple of prototypes who are starting from pit lane, Ross and Craig. And then Nick Mukanos does not appear to be in the session right now. Not sure what happened to him. So we watch the leaders in the GTOs work their way through the first twisty bits. They're getting ready to get their throttle fully down soon, but already with the foot to the floor, Gall leads Fabian Gerber into the Swedish Cross, just past all of the Flugplatz section, and then it's back downhill into the foxhole.
Absolutely. It's awesome to see Fabian Gerber have a challenger for this final race, especially with the championship sewn up. He really has something to fight for right now. Alex Gall, we know how fast he is in most circuits. Looks like Phil Lake has had an incident, Joe.
Yeah, I think it was a spin in the Swedish Cross. He's going to get going. Looks to be the only one involved in that one, thankfully. Now into Oudenauer Forst, and Alex Gall slows it up. Still pulling away a little bit from Fabian Gerber. Gerber mentioned this is not his favorite track. So far, he's not been able to challenge Alex, but we still got a long ways to go.
Yeah, a very long ways. They're barely even through 10% of the lap right now. Just coming now through Metzgerfeld and into Kallenhardt now. These guys really starting to stretch their legs a little bit here over the rest of the field. Yannick Heischinen has actually, well, I said he wasn't here, but he did jump into the GTP, so he's not in the GTOs. So he's up there in third position.
Now up at the front of that, Leskola pulls ahead by about a second and a half. That might wind up being critical here, Adam, because of the slipstream these things offer. Instead, I think it's Streitenberger who's got to worry there in second. He's got Willy Rolla right up his tailpipe.
Absolutely, the Chili Finn right tucked in behind him. Christian Streitenberger now having to defend Willy Rolla. Willy Rolla, we've seen how fast he's been. He challenged for championships multiple times in the past. Awesome to see him back today for this season finale race. He's going to put that real challenge to Streitenberger. Streitenberger seems to have a good understanding of this particular track, so doing a good job. But wow, he clobbered the curb right there on that right-hander. Now through miss, hit, miss, he's missing them all.
Indeed, that costs him some time, but Roll is not able to pass through there. We ride on board with the Finn, plunging down into Defense Valley, and once again, just off the apexes, is Streitenberg maybe dealing with a little bit of cold tires here?
That's Roy Pruitt on the side of the road, who is just hanging on there. He's just hanging out, making sure that he doesn't hit anything, so he's going to hang on there. Streitenberger probably has some damage from clobbering those curves that hard, but he's still pulling away from Willy Rolla on the uphill now.
Absolutely. They start to pick up speed here as they run up Kesselchen. This is one of the faster portions of the circuit. And Streitenberger is going to miss the apex yet again, heading through Bergwerks. Not sure what is going on with the 17. Still hasn't given up second place, but it has dropped him behind Leskola by a full 2 seconds.
Yeah, Willy Rolla's got a decent run here now as they go through the gentle left-hand curve here. Approaching probably the hardest braking zone, in my opinion, on the circuit. Is Willy Rolla going to try and make a pass up the inside of the kink? No, he thinks better of it. Almost clips the curb there. Good job to hang on to it there, but he lost all that momentum that he had on Streitenberger. Where you pass here is so difficult, Joe. We've had to reckon the GTPs again.
That's Lauenstein, unfortunately, and that happened in the carousel, but he's also going to be able to get going, thankfully. That's actually where our GTO leaders are just heading, but the GTP is now well clear. Last time we were here in the Lotus 79s, this was the site of a lot of problems. Let's see if anybody has any amongst this group. So far, so good, thankfully.
Yeah, looks like everyone's handling themselves fairly well, keeping my eyes through the timing and scoring. Looks like everyone's going to be able to make it through there pretty cleanly, all the way down to about 15th position. We have quite a few GTPs who are now starting to weave their way through the GTOs, trying to get going. Paul Ferrer has had an incident. He's off to the side of the road and decides to take a tow back to the pits. He's going to be out of this race, unfortunately. But the top 5 in the GTOs now have Phil Lake to contend with, because Phil's trying to recover from that early spin.
So he's one that unfortunately saw them go past him, but drivers like Ross, Pruitt, I believe Hearing, and a few others had started from pit lane, so they're having to pass them for the first time, and of course those GTOs might not be aware there. Phil Lake is going to be able to ease by coming out of blue, but we now hit the Darinohoa with Alex Gall a full 2.5 seconds ahead of Fabian Gerber. Similar split behind him. Look at how far apart they've gotten, and that will be critical. Heinen not really going to be able to get much of a slipstream. I think the first ones that are going to be able to use it are Karjalainen and De Turk for 7th and 8th. In fact, I think they've swapped positions already.
Yeah, they swapped once, and now they're going side by side as they're going to take that left-hand kink through Anton Sabuk and now into Tiergarten. They're going to dive downhill and still go side by side. Michael De Turk, oh my goodness, that was close stuff. Side by side through here is so sketchy, and look at them navigate this. Great racing for both, but De Turk's going to get pushed off just a little bit there. No contact between the two of them, but contact with the outside wall for De Turk.
First lap, what were they thinking? De Turk is the one that pays for it with some heavy damage on the left side. Let's watch it one more time. I'm shocked that he tried to fight it so hard. Like you said, it's extremely sketchy going too wide into there. Someone had to give up. In that game of chicken, neither was willing to do so, and they both went off the cliff.
Yeah, both of them did, unfortunately, and oh man, just De Turk getting pushed out wide. But he's able to recover. I think he's going to have some damage. But let's go down to 5th place in the GTOs, because Ove Tregerit's making a pass on Reed Miller for position on the Darinohoa.
So that is going to be one change of spots through Antonius Beach. And I don't think Miller's going to be able to try and pay him back, although we can see that sometimes. It's a long enough straight that you can repass the car that slipstreamed past you. So that puts Trangrade up into the top 5. He's got about 2 seconds to make up to get to Niels Core from here.
Absolutely, he's got a lot of work to do to get up there, but he should be able to make it up there fairly efficiently if he can just get going, get himself some consistent laps. We know how strong Ove can be around circuits that are this technical, so look for him to start cutting away at that time. And remember, they only have about 7 laps to go through here, so actually it is exactly 7 laps around here. It looks like they've decided to go for a 7-lap race as opposed to time, so that's what we're going to see.
So apologies for that. And we see them come towards High Oaks. This is one of those very important corners. By the way, Leskola just being finally passed by Phil Lake, so he is easily through. And here, if we watch, these cars can get air over fluke plots. Let's see if Ove takes it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, indeed. Woo-hoo.
Oh, yeah. That's a great feeling when you get all 4 wheels off the ground there. It's a little terrifying, but it feels really nice if you can get that. It is definitely the fastest way in these GTOs to get through that sector.
They pick up speed towards the Swedish cross. It's quite a crest here as we watch on board. Trangrade keeps it on the road and then brakes hard down into Ehrenberg. And I think we had another GTP with a problem. Looks like Kyle Graham spun out. I think that was another lone car incident. So the 47 keeps going. Oh, and now Laust Olsen is off. I think this is in Defense Valley, it looks like.
Yeah, Laust was trying to catch up to De Turk and just outbraked himself into Defense Valley. You're going to see it right here. This is, and we also, if we stay here and go to Christian Streitenberger, he just wrecked in the GTOs as well just after this incident.
Oh, and he had a friend with him, Niels Core. Wonder if this is a multi-car incident. Oh, yes, it was. Actually, this involves Ruola. Here's the Streitenberger incident. 3 cars got caught up in this one.
Oh, he just took it too quick through there, ends up getting loose, takes Rolla with him, and then there comes Niels Core making contact, and that's, oh my goodness, Ove Treger and Reed Miller going up the inside on the grass to avoid it.
Great heads up. just narrowly avoiding the wall to his right side. And that will give Trangrade second place, but he's 6 seconds behind Yuko Leskala. Now, don't count it out, though, because if they do get a little bit of that Nissan traffic, that could change things up significantly. Or just simply a mistake from Leskala could easily hand over a win to the Norwegian. He's still being chased by Reed Miller, who you see running behind. Now, let's head up to those GTPs. We haven't checked in it for a while. Third place is being challenged. Schneider on Kayanen.
Yeah, Schneider is starting to push Kayanen just a little bit here. Fabian Gerber 5 seconds up the road of these guys, and still 2.5 seconds behind Gall. But look at this, Schneider. It looks like Schneider has done his normal thing where he takes a lot of downforce out of the machine, which gives him a lot of speed on the straights. But Kayanen seems to have a lot more downforce dialed into it. That's why you see him stretching away here through the twisting sections. But if Schneider can get through the last sector of the circuit onto the Dottinger Hoa efficiently, he'll be able to rip by Kayanen like he's standing still.
Check on that once they get to there. You're right. It does look like that number one is kind of disappearing into the distance right now. So Yoni adjusting well here to the Nissans, at least running within the top 3 on lap 2. This is coming up to the Beloff S's, one of the faster set of corners here on the track. Look at how fast they go through there. Beloff, of course, for many years held the track record around this place in a Porsche prototype before they finally got rid of prototype racing around this track.
Oh, we've got a pass going on for 8th position rather in the GTOs. Rob Olnick just made it past Robin Hapich. Olnick having started a little bit out of sequence, but look at this train we've got going, Joe, for the 4th position behind Niels Kor, who's involved in that incident. We got Jim McGill, Mark Olay, Jamie Hamill-Smith, Rob Olnick, Robin Hapich, and Moritz Peckel all lined up behind these guys. That's 4th to 10th.
I mean, how important is patience at this point in the race for these sort of drivers? Because I'm sure they feel held up, but I mean, look at how narrow it is around here.
I mean, sure, patience is important, but if a guy makes a mistake, you have to capitalize on it, because at that point, you're just losing time and the draft ahead of you. So yes, you have to be patient, and yes, you have to survive, but also, if you want to get through this race quickly, and with only 7 laps here, you have to take every opportunity that's provided to you. And we're seeing guys trying to do that right now. That's Mark Ole trying to go on Jim McGill, and Jamie Hamill-Smith has got Rob Olnick and Robin Havich for company, and Rob's going to go around the outside, actually. Look at that move. Whoa.
Rob's got a fire lit under him today, that's for sure. And behind him, it looks like Hamill-Smith.
Oh, contact.
Hapich is going to get turned around. That's Peckel who winds up turning him as well, unfortunately. Let's watch the replay. As we watch this, we don't need to go to it, but I can report that Schneider did pass Kayanen along the Dottinger Hoa at the very end of it, actually.
Yeah, look at this move from Rob Olnick around the outside. He ends up putting pressure right there on Jim McGill. Jim's trying to fight back. And then we have the contact between these two guys as they go through the... Yeah, it's just... Jim just turned in a little bit there, and looks like he couldn't turn in because of the curb on the inside, so... That's why we saw the contact.
Indeed. They're heading through Swallowtail now. That group still very close together, although Niels Kor is breaking away from them. Jim McGill being chased by Ole and Olenek. They're coming up to the Dottinger Hoa. Who is going to get the best run and who is going to be able to gain positions?
Best run's going to come from Rob Olenek behind all these cars. He's going to get multiple cars of draft, and also he just got a fantastic run through Galganov and now through Dottinger Hoa. Down they go. Rob's going to already take Mark Ole. He's going to line up behind Jim McGill and try and grab those positions as well. But now Mark's going to get a real good draft as they close up towards the next set of corners. But look at that. Jim McGill going past Niels Kor like he's standing still.
I think Kor's got some damage from that incident we saw earlier. Look at everybody goes by with so much ease. That's going to make life extremely difficult for him.
Here comes Rob. Is he going to try and take it? No.
Stay single file. McGill gets himself into 4th, Rob into 5th, and Ole into P6 after that exchange. Now, I mentioned Schneider getting past Yoni. Yoni, as we mentioned, should be a little bit quicker, but because there's very few places to try and overtake in the twisty sections, he's kind of stuck behind Nick now.
Absolutely, and yeah, Yoni, he is doing decently well, but I think he might have gotten some undertrade damage, maybe from a possible curb hit, because he is losing time to Nicholas Schneider, and where you're going to feel the effects of that damage is on the straights and through the medium speed corners where the downforce wants to work for you. So that could be one of the reasons why we're seeing him lose pace to Nicholas right now, but we're going to see Nicholas start to streak away here as they go uphill, because Nicholas has got that thing a little bit more trimmed out when we start to get into these long straights on the back half of the course.
Speaking of long straights, Olenek has got a very good run, and they're coming up to fluke plots. Are we going to see too wide up and over the jump? Oh, they do it, and they manage it, but Olenek is almost getting loose coming through those double right-handers. He gets the exit off. How did he make that stick? McGill now has to worry about Olay, but he has to check up. There's just no room.
Yeah, I couldn't go around the outside there because it drops away from you on the outside of the circuit, ends up becoming an opposite camber corner. So Olay had to back out of it, otherwise he would have flown off track, but now he's going to go for the late dive down the inside. Fantastic swap over move from Olay. He's going to park on the apex to make sure McGill can't get it back.
A rare one. You don't often see outbraking maneuvers at this track, and Mark is really on it. So that will get him 5th spot, as great advancement by Rob Olenek all the way up to 4th. He's certainly come from a few places down, not with the best qualifying it seems, and he's not letting it stop him.
Man, just a fantastic drive from him for sure, but he's got 15 seconds to go to catch up to Reed Miller. So unless Reed starts to slow down, or these guys can work together a little bit to do some draft work, but I think Rob's leaving them in the dust.
Speaking of leaving him in the dust, can we check in on our leader in the GTOs? Leskala up to 7 seconds. This is our leader in the prototypes right now. Alex Gall 4 seconds up from Gerber, in fact. So he also is really pulling away. Here is our leader now in that number 4. As he gets ready to head into X-Mula. Go ahead.
A little bit left front damage there for Yuko. Looks like he possibly made some contact with a GTP at some point. So even with that damage, having a 7-second gap, I mean, talk about putting your stamp on a season victory. I mean, there's no better way to do it than to, blow 7 seconds out in 3 laps at the Nordschleife.
Well, drivers who have unfortunately blown the race in its entirety have exited, including Mukanos, Laughter, Watts, Hearing, Darling is gone, Shanahan, Pulfair, Phil Lake, Streitenberger, and Rolla. It looks like Kyle Graham just joined them as he's suddenly headed to pit lane with a tow.
Yeah, we really only have 10 GTOs left in this race realistically, Joe, but out of the 22, oh, look at this. Looks like Campbell just had a little bit of an issue here.
Yeah, I'm trying to check. I think, was this the exit of the second carousel, the mini carousel, I think? Yeah, here we are on board through the Bell FS, so he must have had a little bit of a spin up.
So easy to do here, especially, wow, I mean, look at he's got a ton of downforce there to be able to get through those corners that efficiently. Ends up clipping the curb just a little bit, diving into the second carousel. He gets a little bit too low and it spits him out the other end. He manages to save it, but that was a moment where you need to change your fire suit after.
Greatly held by the number 10, and he's going to be able to retain the draft on Yoni. Man, Yoni must have cranked way too much wing into it because he already lost to Nick. Now is Sean going to be able to get through? No, he runs out of straightaway.
Oh no, that was really close from Yoni Kaishin, almost losing it, clipping the inside curbing, and that's going to hold up Sean Campbell so much there. But we also, oh, look at Sean, he's going to go around the outside here.
He's trying for it into the north curve. He holds it. Oh, and a spin of the tires once again from Yoni. Pinches him down to the apex, gives him just enough room, and that causes Sean to have to back out of it.
And can we go to P11 in the GTPs, because it was almost 3 wide as they went under the bridge on the Dottinger Hoa. Here they go through the corners. Martin Krajcik from John Keefe and Jakob Maciejewski. And man, that was really close for those guys. Oh, Krajcik outbrakes himself. John Keefe slips through.
So does Jacob, and it looks like Heitor Sintes Yindo is going to get into 13th. That one mistake of all the positions he gained down the straight hands him right back.
Yeah, and Laust Olsen with his damage now tucked up behind him as well. I think Krajcik also missed a shift to add to his woes. So, oh my goodness, heartbreaking for those guys.
Uh-oh, too wide through the Swedish cross maybe, as they come up to it. No, he's going to be fully clear. I wonder if Joni got a little bit of damage somewhere along the line. He's so slow in a straight line. He tries to look into Ehrenberg. It doesn't quite work out, so Sean now up into fourth with that move.
Yeah, he definitely does have some damage. Those curb hits are starting to add up. He has both left front and right front damage to that clip, and that's what's reducing his speed. That's what I talked about at the beginning of the race, Joe, is that these guys all just need to be very careful. And it looks like Martin Krajcik has taken some heavy front end damage as well. He's starting to lose that group that we just talked about.
Yeah, he had an off coming into High Oaks, and he took a big slap in the left side onto the Armco. So, no, don't have a replay for that one, but the 24 is still running. For a lot of drivers, it's just a matter of simply surviving to the end of this race and managing to see the checkered flag with a full 7 laps.
I mean, that's what I would have thought too, but the amount of racing we've been seeing in these early stages is genuinely impressive. And the fact that these guys, most of them have not ended in massive disasters, has been very impressive. But as we ride on board with Joni Kaisen, you're just watching Campbell slip away because of that front end damage. But P8 in the GTOs is getting pretty good. This is between Niels Kor and Jamie Hamill-Smith.
And they're going to go almost 3 wide here as they come down the Dottinger Hoa. Nope, they're going to leave Kor behind as he continues to struggle from that damage. Now Moritz is up beside Jamie Hamill-Smith. Starts to lose speed. Maybe poked his nose out too soon. Needed a little bit more momentum. Jamie holds ahead. They come up to the braking of the final few chicanes. So that'll give 7th to the 29.
Yeah, good job from both of those guys to hang on to it there between Jamie Hamill-Smith and Moritz Peckel. Both of them able to make the braking zone. You can see Moritz backing off just a little bit, hoping that Jamie Hamill-Smith was going to outbrake himself, but no doing.
Still got him though, and going to see if he can maybe snatch his position. Thankfully, just ahead of them, Don Peak came back out after some repairs and won't hold them up as Martin Krajcik with another incident.
And I think that's it, Joe.
No, he's still going.
He's going to try and get it around. I mean, a tow here takes a good 13 minutes, so totally makes sense. But this is just in case of the damage starting to add up on Martin Krajcik's ability to race this car. And that was Renato Ramavieto, trying to make it through there and able to get through, but just clipping the back end of it.
I think there was a little bit of that hitbox glitch, unfortunately, with the back of the car. Didn't actually seem like he touched him. Krajcik, well, there's another one. That one might actually be it. Let's see if it actually can run after that.
Heitor Setiesgindo just made it past Jacob Makovetsky as well, going through the last couple of turns. But Jacob's actually starting to catch up already, so it looks like these guys both have similar aero and possibly similar aero damage if they have any, and that's what's keeping them so close. But they've got John Keefe up ahead who's starting to run away with this thing a little bit. A good 1 second ahead of these guys as they go through the carousel.
Keefe has been doing fantastic today. He started from 20th and is already up to 11th. So I'm sure he'll hope that he can continue to put some distance between himself and Setiesgindo so that he doesn't catch him down the long Dottinger Hoa. They do give off a slipstream, these Nissans, just not as drastic as what we see in the GTOs. Both of them having some trouble with the apexes there for a moment.
Yeah, Gindo very far wide, ends up sliding the left front tire just a little bit going through that corner. This is going to make him susceptible to Makovetsky, who's now closing up behind him. Makovetsky doing a great job to catch up to get right back in it. It's so hard when you watch someone go through the corner a little bit quick to not follow in their footsteps. Wow, Makovetsky right on the back of Gindo now.
We see him try and push the issue, or is he going to stay patient and wait up through the ice curve? Very blind corner here. And then it heads right back downhill into Flansgarden, one of the other places where you can sometimes see a little bit of air. Not so with these high downforce Nissans, though. And then towards the Beloff S's. This is where they pick up speed. Jacob, is he going to try and pull up to the back of that 22? Doesn't look like he's got the speed. John Keefe will hope that they start to battle amongst each other. They have about a 1.3 second gap between that 27 and that 22. He's got to keep it clean here, both through the mini carousel and through Gallows Hill.
Yeah, now Makovetsky really starting to put the pressure on Guindo, but Guindo getting a better exit through the second carousel. Now as they take those long right-handers, it's going to be really challenging for Guindo to hang on to this because Makovetsky is coming. Watch this.
I think Keefe is clear, but Sintez Guindo is certainly not, as we watch from the 007 cam on board him.
Look at this. So based upon that gap, Makovetsky should have been able to catch up, but it's possible that Guindo is running a little bit more of a clean setup, which is why we saw him losing track down through the twistier bits. But now Makovetsky, even that close, even half a second behind, can't affect the pass, and he's almost lost a full second on this straightaway alone.
Oh, man. Well, the 21 obviously not looking too quick when we get to the faster portions of the lap, and that might wind up biting him. They, under braking, do gain a little bit on John Keefe. They get it back down to 0.6 of a second.
Yeah, absolutely. John Keefe possibly running a little bit more wing than Guindo as well. So Guindo paying the price when it comes to the twisty bits, but he is gaining a lot on the straightaways, and that can help him affect the pass if he can stay right on the back of John Keefe's wing. But as we saw over the course of last lap, that wasn't really possible. Now these guys are on to their fourth lap now, so we are past halfway in this race.
Keeping an eye as well on the battle for seventh in the GTOs. Hamill, Smith, and Pexel are very close together. Whoa, my goodness, we didn't see it on camera, but Moritz actually cut the course at one point by accident, I think, there. I'm kind of amazed that he held it together. The 28 having an interesting time as he chases the 29.
Yeah, Jamie Hamill-Smith and Morris Packnell really starting to fight each other here. They have been nose to tail, and here we go through these sectors. It's so challenging for these guys to hang on to this thing. The Audi just really, it looks like Jamie Hamill-Smith is starting to, oh my goodness, starting to lose the front end grip for him a little bit there.
Absolutely. Greatly held. Now, if we stay on this replay and go to Sintez Guindo, he managed to overtake Keefe.
Yeah, Keefe got loose, actually.
Oh no, I think it was just slow in a straight line like you mentioned.
No, Keefe got loose a couple of corners before, and that allows Guindo to gain the speed that allowed him to get past.
So we come back live, so Aitor now up to P11, 12 seconds up to the Turk. Not expecting him to really run him down anytime soon, unless Michael has some issues. But now he's got clear air, and we watch from on board Sintez Guindo, heading down into Kallenhard. What kind of pace does he have without cars in front of him?
Well, we know that he's got a little bit less downforce than these guys, so he should be able to stretch away a little bit. But for Sintez Guindo, he's got 13 seconds up to Michael DeTurk up ahead. Remember, DeTurk was right in with these guys just a couple of laps ago. But if we could go down to P5 in the GTOs on the Dottinger Hood, Jim McGill making a pass on Mark Ole for position to try and get himself into the top 5 there. Jim's got a little bit of front left damage that he's working with, so Mark could get it back after the bridge.
Ole pulls the red cape aside, allows McGill through, and maybe tries to charge back at him. Nope, he's gonna decide to give it up. And Jim much stronger into Hohenron and Tiergarten. But they're gonna be able to hold it onto the track so hard to get that one right, nailing the braking into that corner. Jim a little bit off the apex coming through T13. But he doesn't go off the course, so he'll retain that P5. Interestingly, Peckel did not pass by Hamill-Smith on the straight, even though he was just as close.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with Peckel that he wasn't able to affect that pass, especially with how he's been hounding Hamill-Smith throughout the course of last lap. We'll have to take a look at his front end and see.
Okay, there's a little bit of damage, but to me that looks like something that he maybe got from climbing over a curb at some point. There's
absolutely
some extremely tall curbs here.
I mean, Joe, if you knock those curbs too much, regardless of what car you're in, and I mean, in the Audis, actually, it affects you a little bit more through the turns. But whoa, contact between the two of them.
Yeah, Hamill-Smith just went way too hot into there. And Peckel, unfortunately, found himself in a pickle. Had to back off. And the 28 will remain in 8th position, almost losing the slipstream, it looks like.
Yeah, Peckel coming on the radio to apologize to Jamie for getting into it. But in that situation, I think Peckel was just trying to get the run on Jamie. I mean, this is a good passing opportunity for the GTOs through this sector, but unfortunately too far back.
that spreads apart one of our few battles left on the circuit. So let's take a look here at McGill and Olay once again. Down into the foxhole, one of the most incredible parts of the track, if you ask me, through compression. Watch the cars bottom out. This is where you see sparks absolutely fly.
Oh, and it feels so great to go through there. 3-4 Gs at the bottom of that compression there. Mark Olay streaking through, trying to catch up to the back of Jim McGill. Jim a little bit deep through this sector, is able to hang on to it just barely. Oh, man. When you go too deep into that sector, you're just trying to hang on for dear life and get that car turned into the apexes and not clobber the curbs too much. Manages to do so and keep his spot over Mark Olay.
Really does remind me of things like the S's at Suzuka or Maggots Beckett's, where you just have to be right on the racing line or else you're going to suffer as they come back downhill into Callandhard. Whoa, strong under braking from Mark, and he makes the second apex, but my goodness, he's certainly looking brave in a few portions.
And now we've got Timo Karjalainen and Servai Seppa, who are inseparable right now. Actually, Karjalainen just made the pass on Seppa, I believe, recently.
Yeah, I think that would have been, he overtook him along the Dottie near Hoa, so easy pass for Karjalainen. And that's going to put him into sixth position. Seppa, who started this race in third, is not doing so hot today. He falls down to seventh from that overtake.
I mean, I would take just going through here safely as a win. Just getting to the end of this race is going to be a success for a lot of these drivers, Joe.
Ooh, we had an odd spin for Renato in the 37. If we get a replay on this and stay on it after the spin, he gives a big scare to Carlos Fonseca and then Craig Schultz.
This is something that can happen in the GTPs if you don't quite have enough downforce for the turn you're trying to make. He just whips it in there, and the car gets a little bit unsettled, loads up that left rear tire just a little bit too much, ends up breaking away, and there goes Fonseca.
There goes Schultz. Wow, that was very, very close. And you don't want to lift there because that's onto the Dottie near Hoa. So that's why the drivers kept their foot in it and risked running into him.
If they lift there, they lose 3+ seconds on the straightaway. That's how much of an effect it can have.
Don't blame them for trying for it. Without the risk of life and limb, really all you have to worry about is safety rating here in the sim world. We come down to 2 laps to go at this point. Just started lap 6 for Alex Gall. Yuko Leskala, actually, is he starting lap 6 yet? No, he is not. He's still on lap 5. Looks like that's out of Brunchin and coming into the ice curve.
Yeah, our Yuko Leskala with a good 10-second lead over Ove Trangerade at the moment. They have Don Peak between them at this time, but Yuko is continuing to pull away just a little bit, but actually Ove Trangerade's catching, to be honest, Joe. It was a gap of about 12 seconds, but I don't think it's going to be fast enough over the next 2 laps to catch up to Yuko Leskala unless he gets held up by Don Peak going by. Our leaders in the GTOs are definitely not going to get passed by the GTP leaders, so because they're about halfway separated on the track at the moment, so that's not going to happen today.
Well, we mentioned Alex Gall is the teammate to Sayandra, who unfortunately couldn't race today and was trying to carry the team's banner, Satellite Racing, trying for a win over Fabian Gerber. And so far, it is looking good for that number 2. Fabian, who predicted that he's not that great here in Germany, is apparently knew himself quite well. But again, he has already clinched the championship, so he does not need to be concerned.
See, I'm not sure about that, though, Joe, because here's the thing, is that Alex Gall, while he's only 3 seconds ahead, that's only 1 mistake away from Fabian Gerber getting passed. So here goes Don Peak to unlap himself. Well, not unlap himself, but to get past Yuko Leskala and get back fighting with his fellow GTPs at the top end of the field.
Yeah, he's got about a minute to make up. He had to get some repairs. That's why he wound up behind. But you know what? I think this is going to help Yuko. He's pulling a big toe off of that GTP.
2 seconds of toe, Joe.
Wow. So that actually was quite a good spot for the Finn to hold on to the back of Peak. And Ove Trangerade is now 12 seconds behind. But the good news for Ove is he's got another 13 seconds back to Reed Miller. So Ove can focus on his own race at this point.
Oh, John Keefe looks like he just had a moment right there.
Yeah, this came out of X-Mula. He's going to spin up the tires after hitting the curb. Yeah, this is a good spot to watch from here from above. You can see, yeah, too much curb, and then that's going to slow him up on the very quick run through the Lauda links. And Jacob, at
this is
21, has an easy pass.
Yeah, but John Keefe has just now made it past Makovetsky once again, just on raw pace alone. Makovetsky just does not have any top-end speed in that machine, Joe.
Well, he took it while he could get it, but John apparently is a little bit faster in a straight line. That gets him back into 12th.
And Mark Olay, unfortunately, was not able to get past Jim McGill on the Dottinger Hoa once again. So Mark just really trapped behind Jim at this point. They're 22 seconds behind Rob Olnick, who passed them on lap 3. So these guys are losing a lot of time right now to those leaders ahead. And Mark Olay, who might have some pace over Jim McGill, unable to do anything.
Let's see. Do they have... now, Peckel is actually 2.5 seconds behind. Wonder if he could start to run them down.
Yeah, Peckel and Jamie Hamill-Smith, who've been battling for a while. Peckel has actually made it past Jamie Hamill-Smith and is now, I think he is going to run them down, Joe. He has started to switch away from Jamie Hamill-Smith. He's going to break the toe this lap if he doesn't make a mistake.
He used the slipstream on the Dottinger Hoa to get past Hamill-Smith. That's what got him into 7th. So don't really need a replay of that one. Easy pass. And now up ahead at times, he'll get a flash of Olay just 3 seconds up the road, and that will motivate him all the more. White flag is now coming out for Alex Gall. And you're right. I don't know if this is him just checking up a little bit, but he's now only 2.5 seconds ahead of Fabian Gerber. Now, Gerber just had to go by a lapped car. That was Orrin Laskin. And Nick Schneider just took the fastest lap of the race with that lap.
That's no surprise, but Nick's going to have to work hard because he's 2 seconds behind Fabian Gerber. If he wants to make the pass on Fabian for that second spot on the podium at the end of this lap, he's got to gain all those 2 seconds up by the time they reach the Dottinger Hoa for this final time.
Watch from on board Nick.
He's bringing it out right now, Joe. This is absolutely maximum attack.
He's managed 1 win so far this season. He's only 5 seconds behind Gall. That would certainly be a feel-good story for him. I'm sure managing to snag one at the ring, a legendary track to be able to claim a trophy at. He picks up speed out of Flugplatz and starts to head towards the Swedish Cross.
And Joe, his last lap was almost a full second faster than Fabian Gerber's, but not quite. So with 1.6 seconds separating them, unless there's a hold up here for Fabian, and there is, he gets held up on the apex. Nicholas Schneider's going to have to navigate Mika Tupola, who's on the exit, which is going to hold him up. So unfortunately, no time gained for him there.
And still about 1.5 seconds without needing to worry too much about what's behind. 10 seconds back to Sean Campbell. He is focused forward as the two of them head into Audenauer Forest, slowing the cars up. And yeah, he gained a lot, it looked like, there under braking.
He is absolutely putting this thing where it needs to be. He's like, he is fitting it like a puzzle piece in between these curbs. It's one of the most beautiful things to see a high downforce car be able to navigate this smoothly through these sections. I mean, he clips the white paint on, like next to the curbs, every single curb he goes by without clipping the curb itself. This man has done a lot of practice here.
And it's paying off. Right on board with Nick Schneider. You can see now plunging downhill through miss, hit, miss. Let's see how he takes this.
You've got to be kidding me. I mean, the slip angles that he's able to manage in this GTP right now are genuinely impressive as he's trying to close that gap to Gerber. But Gerber's starting to put on a show too. He's keeping that gap held out at about 1.5 seconds. These are going to be 2 quick laps, Joe.
Really will be. But will they be quick enough to get into second and maybe potentially even first if we get an error from Alex Gall? There we see Gerber on screen. 1.3 seconds now. And they climb uphill through Kesselchen here after Bergwerks. Who has less wing? My money is honestly on Schneider.
Back out to 1.5 before they get onto the straight. Nicholas Schneider going to start gaining a couple of tenths every, every couple hundred feet he's gaining about a tenth here. But Fabian Gerber doing a great job maximizing what he can out of that car, trying to turn the wheel as little as possible to get as much speed as possible. Nicholas Schneider not gaining as much as I think he would have wanted.
Does get it down to 1.4. Let's see, is he going to be flat out through the moot curve? Yes, he was. And then braking down to 1.3, gained about 2.5 tenths.
A little bit wide. That's Alex Gall up ahead of them, going through the carousel right now. They have not cut that gap down at all this lap. Nicholas Schneider is going to have a really good final section. This is the section of the track where Fabian Gerber should be the strongest and where Nicholas Schneider might struggle.
And don't forget, on that battle amongst our GTOs, some of them are going to be lapped here by Alex Gall at this final lap. So some will unfortunately be out of their fight a lap early. Continuing to watch from the perspective of Nick Schneider out of Vipperman, now towards Ashbrook.
Absolutely on it right now. Only a couple of apexes missed so far. I've counted about 5, and that's pretty good when you're considering 154 turns across the course of this lap. Just barely wide on that one as well. Had to not take as much throttle as he wanted coming out of the corner, which backs him back up to about 1.4 seconds. Fabian Gerber putting on a show up ahead as well. Definitely not something that should be overlooked either, is that Fabian is defending against Nicholas and being just as quick.
Absolutely, but Nick's now got it down to 1.2 seconds, and they are coming up to the Dottinger Hoa soon. If he can get it within a second, I think he's got a realistic shot at trying to attack in that final braking into the last couple chicanes. Up towards the mini carousel. Alex Gall just went through there.
He lost 0.3 seconds just through that sector alone. Lost time to Fabian Gerber, who's obviously figured out that sector more. As we get back onto the Dottinger Hoa, Alex Gall, he actually got closed in a little bit by Fabian Gerber, but I'm not thinking it's going to be enough.
Justin Craig going to allow Alex Gall to go by. And Justin bemoaning that he wanted to do all full 7 laps. But I don't think he's got the pace. I don't think Alex Gall is going to be able to let him by, because he's got to worry about Fabian Gerber 2.5 seconds back. Schneider too far behind himself, 1.5 seconds. As they come up into the last few turns, Alex Gall started this one from pole. He is not going to let the pressure from behind phase him. And he is going to win today as he takes victory in Germany. Gerber finishes in second, not far behind, and Nick Schneider so close in third.
All right, now everyone take a breath and then take a look at the GTOs who just started their final lap. Yuko Leskala a good 10 seconds ahead of Ove Trangerade. Yuko's a good probably 2 minutes into his lap, but the battle for 5th position is fairly tight between Jim McGill, Mark Ole, and Moritz Peckel, and they actually just started their lap.
Jim McGill once again, and an incredibly tight fight.
Oh, that was almost disaster show.
Peckel now having caught up to them and chasing them down into the foxhole. 9 of our GTOs are still on the lead lap and work their way around to complete this 7-lap event. Oh, look at how much curb that Peckel is taking in places.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's something you can do more in the Audi than you can in the GTB, and something he's going to have to do to try and get by Ole on this lap. But Ole, very, very weak on the shift there out of that corner. Just ended up hanging it a little bit too much in probably what was first gear through that particular corner. But Peckel just losing time as they get further on in the straight. So Peckel's going to have to do some work to get his corner exits a little bit better here, especially through the slower corners.
I get the feeling that Mark wishes he had this car like a Scalextric, just glued to the track and on rails. But right now, he's got to focus on what he's doing with that steering wheel, with those throttle and brake pedals. Peckle still holding with him. The 28 now going to use a run soon as they start to get close to the run up Kesselchen through Defense Valley, continuing to plunge downhill. Just a few more corners and he'll have a long, fast, straight section.
Yeah, it was fascinating to see both of their different philosophies on Miss Hit Miss. It looked like Ole was going for the late Apex version. Moritz Peckle going for the early Apex version. Neither of them losing too much time, but who was losing time was Jim McGill, climbing through the slow uphill. That means he's got Mark Ole right on his rear bumper, and Moritz Peckle's losing time because Ole's got a better draft.
All right, coming out of Bergwerks now. They speed their way uphill, picking up as they go, 145 miles an hour. And McGill looks well clear. Ole looks at least able to defend, as Peckle is not on top of him like he would have liked.
It's getting very close between all these guys, and Ole's starting to become the cork of the bottle here between these guys. Peckle with a great corner. Watch this. Is he going to go for a move? No, he thinks better of it. Probably would have ended up shoving himself and Ole off through that right-hander. But now as they sweep up towards the first carousel, Jim McGill makes a big mistake, outbreaking himself into that sector. Unfortunately for Ole, he wasn't close enough to capitalize, but that might be the blood in the water that Ole needed to try and push hard to catch up to McGill.
Yeah, I think he might regret that error because of the slipstream that it's going to be giving to Mark out of the carousel, now up to the highest part of the track heights. Mark now just stalking that number 20, knowing all he has to do is keep with him. Another little apex missed by McGill.
Guys really starting to sweep just a little bit, but let's go up to Reed Miller because he's starting to get caught by Rob Olenek here. There's Rob streaking into view. Rob is really, oh my goodness!
What happened there?
Rob Olenek, a huge incident. We'll have to keep our eyes on that at the end of this race because I'm going to want to see what happened there. But we go back to the battle for 5th. This is now actually the battle for 4th because Rob Olenek is in the trees somewhere in the forest.
I think he clipped the grass on the way down to Flansgarden, and you catch air there normally. Just the Heron has the wrong place to find himself out of control, unfortunately. Meanwhile, McGill ahead of Ole, but the man who's been leading the race in this GTO class has 11, nearly 12 seconds. Yuko Leskala, who has been incredibly dominant this season, taking 9 wins, is about to make it 10 out of 12. This has just been an absolute destroyer of a season as everybody else's confidence takes a hit, but not Yuko Leskala, who takes victory here today at the Nordschleife.
Rachel Ingray is going to come home in second, and then Reed Miller's got another 28 seconds-ish to go. Yeah, he's just going under the bridge now, so he's got some time to go, but he will secure that 3rd place unless we see a mistake like we saw from Ove Trangrade. But that battle for 5th, getting onto the Dottinger Hohen now, Jim McGill, Mark Ole, and Moritz Peckle. Who's going to come out on top for the 4th position? And it looks like Ole's losing that time to Jim McGill again. Can Moritz Peckle get it done?
Look at them weaving back and forth. Ole is vulnerable as Moritz. Oh, he runs out of track, weaves to the other side. That hurt his momentum. He has to get back in line behind him. Is there enough straightaway for him to pull him down again?
Oh boy, this is going to get tight here. I think Ole's going to try a late move. No, can't quite get it there under braking. Is Jim McGill going to outbrake himself into this sector? He looks pretty secure. Here we go, diving into the corner. Ole's trying to get there, but he can't quite get it done. Jim McGill needs one more turn. He's got 4th, and he's going to do it. Jim McGill 4th, Mark Ole 3rd. Moritz Peckle misses a shift, but comes home in 6th.
Brilliant defense. Now let's show what happened to Rob Olenek, because this was one of the most unique wrecks I think I've ever seen here at the Nürburgring. This is going to happen down into Flansgarden just before he hits the big crest where the car gets light. And I think this is a case of he just clipped the grass at the wrong time.
Yeah, this is a very fascinating incident for sure. Watch Rob. He's really trying to maximize. Oh, he clips that curb. Oh my goodness. So he got a little bit loose heading downhill, ends up clipping the outside curb. We're going to ride on board with him and see how this happened. It's actually easier to do than you think. Gets a little bit loose heading downhill, then he clips this back curb with the right rear tire, and then gets onto the grass, and that thing just takes off.
Wow, there was absolutely no saving it. They had no chance to try and keep that from getting worse as soon as he was on a trajectory. But we're going to take a break. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so don't go away. Welcome back to the Nürburgring. The finale for the Kamel GT series gave us some incredible racing and some thrilling spills. And in the end, it was Alex Gall who took the victory ahead of Fabian Gerber. We saw in the chat afterwards, he says he had a little bit of damage. Hopefully we'll get to talk to him and find out what that came from. Nick Schneider wound up in third with Sean Campbell. Excellent run going from 8th to 4th today. Joni Kajanen somehow just seemed to lack pace in a straight line. Not sure if it was damage or setup. He wound up 5th. Timo Karjalainen was P6 behind him with Severi Seppa, his fellow Finn, in 7th. Fabian Jungbluth was in 8th, and Jacob Leon in P9. Then you have Michael de Turk in 10th, with Aitor Sintez Guindo in P11. John Keefe went from 20th to 12th. Jeka Marchewski in 13th, was followed by Carlos Fonseca in 14th. Then it's Craig Schultz in P15 and Hideki Koivisto in 16th. Renato Ramivieto in P17 gained a number of spots today, but certainly had some troubles. Jonathan Rickard in 18th. And last of our finishing prototypes was Thomas Lauenstein.
Jukka Leskala took home the win once again. 10 wins on the season for him over Ove Trangarate, who just could not keep up, 12 seconds behind, coming home in second. Reed Miller is going to secure, I believe, second place in the championship with that third place finish today on track, with Jim McGill coming home in 4th and Mark Ole 5th ahead of Moritz Peckel. Those three battling until the last corner. Jamie Hamill-Smith is going to come home in the 7th spot with Robin Hapich in 8th. And then we've got Mika Tupola, who had some trouble, ended up a lap down. Rob Olenek, whose wreck we saw. Oren Laskin and Niels Kor 12th. And those were your last running finishers. Rob Olenek obviously not running, but through Niels Kor running.
Now we have our winner ready to talk to us, Alex Gall. Alex, we talked about it on the broadcast, and your teammate definitely told us you're kind of carrying the banner for satellite racing today, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, so Sai was doing Sports Car Open, so I kind of took the banner for the league. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. I didn't have this car for a long time now.
Now, we saw in the chat, it sounds like you actually, we missed this, you hit the wall somewhere. Where did this happen, and how much did it affect the car?
I don't know, I wasn't paying too much attention, and then after YouTube corner, I don't really know the name, there is quite a curb you have to miss, or the car kind of jumps and you hit the wall, which I did. It was very soft, so I had like 2 kph top speed damage. Fabian also had trouble with damage. I think his car looked damaged. I think he was losing like me 2 or 3 kph down the straight.
Well, it makes it amazing that you managed to keep ahead of Fabian as well as Nick for that entirety of the race. I know you hail, at least from Club France. How close are you to the ring? Because that one, the Eiffel Mountains down a little bit towards the French border there.
Oh yeah, it is. It's pretty far from me though. Like I live in Normandy, so it's the other side of the country.
Unfortunate. Well, hopefully you'll be able to get out there and maybe visit in real life soon. Congratulations on a victory. Feel free to thank whoever helped make this win possible.
Thank you, guys. Well, Sai almost raced yesterday, but we kind of chatted each other. He also shared the setup, but I ended up not really using it. I was advocating for other type of wings and trying weird stuff with wing 6 or 8, and in the end I still drove with 7, which is the standard on this track.
Well, that was Alex Gall, our winner. And up next, I believe, Adam has caught up with the man chasing him, Fabian Gerber.
Yeah, Fabian, I mean, you hung on to Alex all race, closing into 2.5 seconds, your closest gap towards the end of that race. But talk to me about your experience and how it was racing out there against such fierce competitors like him and Nicholas Schneider, who was catching at the end.
Yes, it was, in a way, compared to usual Kamel races, a bit boring because there was no traffic involved, at least not as much. I still had some bad luck in the end, so Niklas could come awfully close. I was really scared that he could come get into the draft, so I thought I was going to lose the second place. But otherwise it was just straightforward. I picked up some damage in the first lap, so I was a bit off top speed, but Alex later also got some damage, so we were pretty even then. He had his sections, I had my section, so it was just about surviving and trying to be as fast as possible still. It's very difficult. I'm quite exhausted, to be honest.
Absolutely, I definitely believe it after doing so many, 7 laps around here. But Fabian, with the championship under your belt this season, looking back at your season, what do you think about it?
It was not my best because I had some mistakes, but in the end I had very good races like at Long Beach or Sebring or Detroit, where I really had no mistakes and had a good lead and could control the race. And in my 3 wins, or 4 it was, I'm not sure, I also had beaten Sai in 3 of them, so he was there, so he wasn't like just profiting from my opponent not being here, even though he wasn't here today, so that's a shame. But otherwise it was a mixed season. I had my up and downs, to be honest.
Absolutely. But Fabian, as a multi-time champion, I gotta ask you, what is it that keeps you coming back to the series? Is it the multi-class? Is it the close racing between competitors? Is it the track selection? What is it that keeps you coming back?
It's definitely not the track selection or the multi-class. I think it's just Nissan. I really like to drive it. I enjoy it a lot. And even though in many seasons in recent times I thought I gotta have a break, but after week 13 I had enough break, so I can come back. I just enjoy so much driving that car, and it's a great community also. It's great races, great people. So yeah, it's sometimes very frustrating, like the bad luck in traffic I had this season also. But sometimes you just gotta live with it, and I have my most successful year. I had 4 championships in a row, so it would actually be a good moment to finish on a high. But on the other hand, I think I'm gonna be back next season. I'm not sure for every race, but I'll be there for sure.
Well, we'll definitely hope to see you, and congrats once again on the 4 championships in a row. Is very impressive, Fabian. And We want to give you a moment to thank anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go today.
Yes, thanks you guys. Thanks for the compliments you just gave, and thanks to Sai and Matthias Haftel who shared their setups as I did, and sometimes I used theirs, maybe sometimes I used mine, I don't know. But it's just a very nice community with sharing setups and being honest with each other. It's very enjoyable, so thanks to everyone involved.
That was Fabian Gerber finishing second today, but winning the championship once again. And it looks like Joe Peak has caught up with Reed Miller, who finished down in the third position in the GTOs and possibly clinched that second spot in the championship.
Yes, and Reed has developed a reputation of being Mr. Consistency here in Kamel. Did that skill set help you here today, where it's a track about just seeing the finish?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was a big struggle with the tire temperatures at the front, so constantly watching out to lose grip, and we're just trying to keep even pace and watching Rob catch up to me, but trying to keep her going.
Yeah, and I mean, he looked like he was giving you a little bit of a scare there at the end up until he had his incident. If it wasn't for that, do you think he maybe would have tried to challenge you at the very end?
Yeah, it looks like he would have been right on my tail coming down the straight, so it would have been pretty much imminent game, but I think he would have had the advantage from being behind, and he had a good head of steam there, so fortunate for me that he had a bit of a problem there, so I got lucky, I think.
Obviously, the end of the season, and so a lot of things have been teased. Is there any content or features that you're seeing coming up that have been talked about you're eagerly looking forward to?
Oh man, I actually haven't been paying too much attention to that. I've just been focusing on this series for the most part. So, I mean, looking forward to next season. I'm going to be back in the GTO trying hard.
Well, we look forward to having you back. You always give us a good and entertaining race, and congratulations on a podium.
Thank you. Big congrats to Juco for utter domination this season. Amazing.
It really was impressive. That was third place finisher Reed Miller. And we're going to close up with a big thank you to the Kamel community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. But also, we have to thank the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that are listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to find more of her work at her Bandcamp. And thanks to the team today, Adam, Michon, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media. Our Twitter is @GSR Channel, Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Graham. And we've got a merchandise store linked in the description below. It's simply gsrc.storenv.com. We should be back for the next race, which after a break for week 13 will be Saturday, March 20th at noon Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. And up next later this evening on GSRC, we've got the Bootleg Racing League Grand National Series going to Lanier. That'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.